launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs, and we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
Welcome back to Legendary Foods Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today is Thursday, December 8th, 2022. And let's find out what's going on in the world of bodybuilding and fitness. With the Olympia only being a few days away now, we're starting to enter into primetime territory for hot takes and predictions from anyone who happens to have an audience. And based on some of the footage that we've been seeing trickle in from Samson Dauda's team over the last few days, well, it seems like there's a high probability that he ends up being in the center of a lot of those headlines. Now, to be fair, the stuff that we're seeing from him right now is absolutely out of this world. And if someone would have told you that we would be talking about him this way back at the start of the year, you would have thought they were crazy, because there was no way anyone could have seen this coming. This guy is a legitimate dark horse contender to shake up the top. This guy is a legitimate dark horse contender to shake up the top 6 this year, and depending on how things shake out, placing 1 or 2 spots higher might even be the play here. Let's just play this Samson scenario out for a minute. If we assume that he shows up as good as advertised, and he does end up finding a way to put himself in contention for a spot inside the top 6, by default that would mean someone from last year's group is going to end up on the outside looking in. So let me ask you this: is there a possibility that William Bonak ends up as the odd man out in this scenario? Williams' camp says that this is the best that he's ever been, which is a high praise when you consider the fact that he was a close second to Brandon at the Arnold in March. The best version of William Bonak has consistently been a top 3 finisher at the Olympia for the better part of the last few years. So if Samson is pushing in on that territory, what are your thoughts on a fully dialed in version of William digging his heels in here and standing his ground? Beyond whatever may or may not happen inside the top 5, I think the general consensus from most fans right now is that we're also going to see some new faces make their way into the top 10 this year. And one of the names that we've heard tossed around consistently as someone who could be a potential top 10 threat is none other than longtime friend of the show, James Hollingshead. Pound for pound, his level of thickness and density ranks right up there with anyone else's. And he's one of the few guys that we're going to see in that lineup who has the ability to deliver that old school level of graininess that was more common back in the late 90s and early 2000s. The extended offseason gave James plenty of time to really attack his weaknesses and bring more balance to his look. So if his conditioning is where it needs to be, there's definitely a possibility for him to end up battling it out for a spot in the 8 through 10 range. One of the common themes that we've seen from the Samsons and the Williams and the James of the world heading into their Olympia prep is that everyone seems to be playing the size game this year in order to tread water and stay competitive with the man they call Big Rammy. But sometimes, if you can be the one to zig when everyone else is trying to zag, it ends up being in your favor by keeping you ahead of the curve. And out of all the new faces that will be competing at the Olympia for the first time this year, Tonio Burton might be zagging harder than anyone. Now, granted, he is coming in bigger this year as an open competitor than he did last year when he was in the 212 division, but that doesn't change the fact that he is looking more and more like a Dexter Jackson that's built on being the total package all the way across the board, as opposed to being the juggernaut in the size department. He's proven a few times already that he's more than capable of taking out guys who outweigh him on the scale by staying true to what he does best. So if he comes in with an improved version of that next weekend, it'll be interesting to see where he lands on the scorecards. And that does it for yet another edition of Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, reminding you to always be true to your passions and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.